I have now cut all the pieces. Here's the back piece. As my fabric frays easily, I already finished the edges with a serger. This piece is the same size as our original square. No need for a pattern. The material is some sort of upholstery fabric, cotton polyester mix. And here are my 4 bamboo pleat pieces. I cut them on the fold. There's a notch here, whereas here we don't need one. The shape tells us where to fold. These ones are needed. Here I cut longer notches, except for one piece due to the zipper. And here we have little notches. Let's pin the folds. Starting from the box pleat. Use the pattern as a reference if needed. Find the first fold between these 2 points. Bring the pointed tip to the center. Align the edges and pin. At the bottom, you follow the notches. The first fold is pinned. Then we have the first bamboo pleat. These are the reference points for the fold. Here's the pointed tip. We need to bring it here. At the bottom we have another notch. Make a fold between these 2 points. Be careful not to stretch the fabric. Bring the fold to the little notch. Align the edges and pin. There we go. Now we'll pin the third fold. Here are the reference points. First fold between the points. And then bring the fold to the notch. Pin all the folds in the same way. These go in the opposite direction, of course. I have completed mine. Next, stitch the folds in place near the edge, so the stitches remain inside the seam allowance. Also here. Finish the edges too if your fabric frays a lot. Here I left a bit of space for the notches so they won't pull. Prepare all 4 pieces in the same way. Then we can unite these. The idea is obviously to match the pleats at the seams. We'll prepare 2 pairs at first. Match the center points here. Check. Then we'll match all the bamboo pleats. Pin like this. The pleats need to match at the seam line. Check on the right side. Proceed like this. One more pin. The seam will end here. Pin the other pair the same way. So at a 1 centimeter distance from the edge, keeping the layers aligned. Remove the pins at the last minute so the fabric won't shift. Stop here and backstitch. Let's check the alignment. The seam allowance will be pressed open. Correct if needed. Here I have the 2 pairs. Now we'll unite them. Right sides together. Start by matching the center points. And this is really bulky, so you probably won't be able to pin at the crossing point. You can pin next to it. Then match the rest of the pleats as before. Sew the seam just like the previous ones. The front piece is ready. Press the seams open. Personally, I don't mind, but if you want, you can hand stitch the ends of the bamboo pleats in place. From the wrong side, so the stitches won't show. From this point on, I'd say. The rest of the pleat is fine on its own because of the diagonal seam. We'll add a lining underneath so the pleats won't open with the tension caused by the cushion. The size is the same as the original square. I serged this one separately as my main piece was already serged. Match the corners and pin. Find the center point of the lining piece. This way you can match the center points too. Add a few more pins and pin the remaining 3 edges too. Then sew the 2 layers together. Before uniting the front and back pieces, we need to attach the zipper. Pick the side you cut the smallest notches to and pin the front and back piece corners together. The zipper will start and end 4 cm from the edges. As the seam allowance is 1 cm, we'll measure 5 cm from the edge and mark the points with a pin. We'll sew these bits normally and the section between them with a long stitch. See if you need to shorten your zipper. It should be only slightly longer than the opening. The seam allowance is 1 cm as usual. Stop at the 5 cm mark and backstitch. Here goes the opposite edge. Then the longest stitch your sewing machine can do without backstitching. This is a regular zipper, by the way. Place it face down on the wrong side. Match the top stops with the starting point of the opening. Press the seam open as you go, or do it before this with an iron. Center the zipper teeth. In fact, the name of this method is the centered zipper. Add some pins to hold the zipper in place. Then we'll baste, catching all the layers. Baste both sides. Here's mine. Now we can sew with the zipper foot. Don't go too close to the zipper teeth, so the cursor will have enough space to move. Try to maintain the same distance. This is the easier side. Then sew the other side, maintaining the same distance from the zipper teeth. The side with the bamboo pleats is bulkier. remove the basting stitches and also the long stitches here in the center. This will reveal the zipper. And now the moment of truth. Will the zipper open? If you sew too close to the zipper teeth, you won't be able to open this and need to sew again. Finally, we'll sew the short edges. Just a few stitches back and forth. And so the zipper is done and we can close the other 3 sides. Pin the right sides together, matching the corners and midpoints. Remember to open the zipper before sewing. Sew at 1 centimeter. Then let's turn the right sides out through the opening. Press the seams. And then the cushion cover with bamboo pleats is done.